So welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club. Today we have a very interesting guest, the Minister of Finance of the Republic of the Philippines, Mr. Purisima. And he's in Japan for nearly 1 week talking to investors because Philippines seems to be an interesting country to invest in. Economic growth rate is impressive, so developed countries can just dream about this. It's more than 70%. Last quarter, it was 6.4%, he told me. And there's some interesting lessons to learn from the Philippines. And one, to quote our guest, is that good governance leads to good economics. I think this is a lesson everywhere in the world one could learn, and so welcome to our guest, and he gives us a short introduction about Philippines and what he's doing here, and then we open for Q&A.
Is it on?
No. Did you stand up?
You want me to stand there? Okay. Oh, I was looking for it. So. Now I feel like I'm hiding. But anyway, thank you, Carsten. I hope you don't mind if I call you Carsten, for introducing me and for giving me this opportunity to speak before your association. When we were young, the Philippines in the 50s was next only to Japan in terms of economic development. In fact, our neighbors, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, would send their people to the Philippines to study. In 1965, and I think we were all still young in 1965, the total exports of the Philippines was more than the combined exports of Taiwan and Korea combined. So that's what the Philippines was in the 50s and 60s. It was a country that was quite advanced in Asia. Fast forward 30, 40 years later, in the early 2000s, the Philippines was among the laggards in ASEAN. And people were asking questions on why this happened. From such a lofty position, a country that is blessed with natural resources. After all, we're the 5th most mineralized country in the world. A country blessed with people who speak English. A country blessed with the right location, being right next door to Japan, right next door to some of the most successful economies of the region. Why, over the next 30 to 40 years, it declined? And the simple answer is governance. We have not been blessed with a government that was forward-looking, that invested in our country, that had the right policies to make sure that we're able to actualize our potential and maintain our lofty position in the 50s. And that was why we were quite blessed that in 2010, President Aquino was elected as president with the largest mandate ever of any Philippine president, but more importantly, with the right agenda. And his thesis was, without corruption, there would be no poverty. With less corruption, less poverty. And if you reverse that, the heart of that is the issue of governance. On my side of the administration, we believe that if we improve governance, then we can improve the economic performance of the country. And that's what we've proven the past 4 years. With better governance, in fact, it is very quick. The markets react quickly. When they realized that this was a president that would walk his talk, that had the support of the people, that wanted to reform the country, they immediately recognized. And suddenly, our ratings improve, the outlook improve, and as we continue to walk our talk in this reform agenda, our cost of borrowing has decreased. No? But more importantly, our own businessmen became more confident. They had more confidence about the future, so they were investing more. Their own cost of borrowing was also low, and they could borrow longer. So the risk profile, the risk of projects became lower. Our own people, and I think this is most important, became more confident about their own futures. So they started buying more durables, condominiums, houses, and cars. And all of this confidence of the financial markets, our own businesses, and our people has allowed us to get into a virtuous cycle that has changed the outlook for the country. And it has given us capital to continue the reform agenda and prove to our own people that good governance indeed is good economics. So what are the reforms that the President has done the past 4 years that has resulted in this favorable outlook? When we started, we had fiscal constraints. No? We had deficit close to 4% of GDP. Within 2 years, we were down less than 2%. In fact, it was 1.3% of GDP last year. So we raised revenues. We became more careful with expenditures. Although there's still corruption, there's still leakage, it's much less than what it used to be. It's not yet perfect. And after all, there is no perfect in this world. We've also been able to reduce our interest costs. No? So the fiscal constraint has been dealt with. We're working on our infrastructure challenges. As you know, the key in this globalized world is connectivity. To be connected to the global supply chain, you have to have world-class ports. To get tourists to come to your country, you need the world-class airports. We're working on that. To make it efficient to move around the country, you need mass transit and more highways and reliable power plants. We're working on that. Our budget for 2015, infrastructure is about 4% of GDP. We started at about a little over 2% of GDP. Our goal is to bring that up to 5% of GDP. And that is why when you solve the fiscal constraint, then you free up yourself to be able to do more productive expenses. We've also increased investment in our own people. Our biggest asset, despite the fact that we're highly mineralized, is really our people. We are the youngest country in Asia. Average age of 23 years old. As I learned yesterday, we are a sizable country. We're one oku, 100 million people. No? And we are entering a demographic sweet spot where the majority of our people will be in working age. And we are the last major Asian economy to do so. And those that have gone before us have seen accelerations in their growth rates. We're trying to make our bureaucracy less challenging for businesses. We're creating islands of excellence. We have the Philippine Economic Zone Authority that follows world-class processes for businesses. But we're trying to make that standard across the country. Obviously, this is going to be a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. So we're going through all these reforms. We came up with a reproductive health reform law because, as you know, one of our challenges is high population birth rate. So with this, we've been able to slow down birth rate. We've come up with the governance law that will allow us to better regulate our government-owned corporations. So to cut a long story short, President Aquino walked his talk in terms of reforming the government. We fought corruption and we are fighting corruption. We changed the Supreme Court Chief Justice. We're filing cases every week. We're going after those that have taken advantage of their positions. No? And despite all of this, of course, there are still a lot of challenges in this area. But what the people have seen and what the market have seen is that the country really has a lot of potential, and a slight improvement in governance has actually resulted for us to increase our growth rate to an average of over 6% the past 4 years. Mind you, we've been growing because of consumption, but the growth rates has been anemic, around 4.5%. So we brought that up 1.5%, and our goal is to increase it further, because our ultimate agenda is really to alleviate poverty in the country, make working abroad a choice rather than a necessity. Now, I'm here in Japan because I believe that the Philippines and Japan are two countries that have a lot of things in common, but more importantly, we complement each other. When you look at demographies, Japan and the size of countries is quite similar, but in Japan you have a more advanced, more mature country. In fact, the population is decreasing because it's one of the most the oldest country in the region, no? But it's also the most advanced, the richest, has the deepest pool of savings in the region. The Philippines, on the other hand, the youngest country, growing, and has a lot to offer in terms of human resources. No? So from a demographic standpoint, we complement each other. From a geographic standpoint, we complement each other. Our hope is that with our economic partnership agreement, the Philippines becomes Japan's Mexico. When NAFTA was signed, Mexico benefited from that. For example, in the automotive industry, initially the spare parts, and the U.S. car companies have benefited with more competitive cost of production. We are the closest southern neighbor of Japan. In fact, my theme has been, in my talks, has been for Japanese companies to look south, because that's where the Philippines is. Look south, the Philippines can be your gateway to ASEAN. And that's the other opportunity, because the Philippines is going to be part of a more integrated ASEAN, composed of 10 countries, but we're the second largest in population. An integrated ASEAN would be the third largest country in the world in terms of population, with over 600 million people. In terms of GDP, it's among the largest also. But the average age would be similar to India's. The growth rates of the economy would be among the highest in the world. So it's a market that I think is attractive even for a country as big as Japan. A study has been made that the bulk of the middle class of the world by 2030, they say 2/3 of the world's middle class will be in this part of the world. And a big portion of that will be in ASEAN, and therefore as a big market, I think we would be attractive enough for Japanese companies. So that's why we brought not just myself, several other secretaries to meet with Japanese investors. We're continuing to open up the economy. Over 90% of economic activity is open to 100% foreign ownership. Recently, we opened up the banking sector at the request of a Japanese bank. So 100% ownership of a Philippine bank or banking operations is now possible for foreign companies. Because the President believes that the only way to thrive in a globalized environment is to be part of it, to be interconnected with it, to be part of all the global supply chains, and to make sure that we are an efficient member of that. And I'm not saying that when you go to the Philippines, it's all hunky-dory or it's all fine. No. I'm telling you, you have a country that is pointed the right direction. I think that's the most important thing. A country trying to work hard to regain its rightful place in Asia, a country that has a lot of potential, and therefore businesses want to capture trends at an early stage. I think the time is now. A lot of things are aligned for the country, and that's the reason why I sought an opportunity to meet with the members of the Foreign Correspondents Association of Japan, so that our story can be shared to more Japanese businesses, especially the mid-size Japanese business. The large ones, they're all in the Philippines, no? But the mid-size, no? There are quite a few interesting facts about the Philippines that's rarely known. For example, we're among the 5 largest shipbuilding countries in the world, courtesy of Japanese companies. We're number 5, actually. We're among the world's largest semiconductor companies, courtesy, of course, of many foreign companies, including Japanese ones. No? I think if you look at our history, having been under Spain for over 400 years, under the US, partly under Japan, and of course being in the Orient, we, I think, would be ideally placed to claim that it's in the Philippines where the East meets the West. Because our culture is the blend of East and West culture. And we would be an ideal gateway, especially for those outside Asia. Finally, we're right at the center. Although we're not part of mainland Asia, we're right at the center, within 4 hours flying time of most major Asian capitals. So that's the story of what has happened in the Philippines the past 4 years, and why we believe Japan and the Philippines make sense together. I hope I did my 20 minutes.
Slightly more, but
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Coming from Europe and living in Japan, it's incredible to listen to average age in Philippines is 23 years. 23 years. This is incredible.
I'm an old man in the Philippines.
Yes, this sometimes makes me happy in Japan, traveling to the countryside. I feel young because I'm a young man. But this is a real interesting point. You said, and the first time I heard from a politician to think about slow down the birth rate, this is exception too. You said that mid-sized companies are, if you allow me to ask the first question, then of course the floor is open. Mid-sized companies are the target you want to bring in. I hear this from other countries too, that they say big companies already there, they invest in foreign countries. Mid-sized Japanese companies are not in Europe, or not, you don't find them. So what is the main problem for you that mid-sized companies are more defensive now, and what should happen to make it more attractive for them to go outside?
I think it's all about information. Sometimes you don't know about the country. No? Sometimes you may know about the country, but you may have the wrong perception. Or sometimes you get stories that may discourage you from even considering visiting a country. And we like small, medium-sized companies because we really believe that outside of the large ones, they are the backbone, the strength of the Japanese economy, similar to what is in Germany. I'll give you a sector, the automotive sector for one. Automotive sales in the Philippines for the first 6 months is up over 30%, because you have a country that's big, that is motorizing. Now, so initially, motorcycle sales have increased, but as they improve their income, they shift to cars, and we're seeing that shift now. So we'd like to attract Japanese car manufacturers to the Philippines, but you need the ecosystem of suppliers that are crucial to make sure that you're able to produce at the competitive price. No? Some Japanese car companies bring their own group of suppliers. No? But obviously, we'd like to be able to support even those suppliers with those who are experts in specialized areas, painting, machining, electronics, metallurgy. Sometimes these are small companies. You'd be shocked, but there are key parts of supply chains. And to us, to do so We need to reach out to some of the banks that have strength in here in this market, and that's why we've opened up the banking sector. Because to us, banks are not only for financial resources, but they really intermediate information, intermediate connections, and that's what we hope will happen.
So, the floor is open for questions. All happy? Siegfried.
Siegfried Needle, freelancer from Germany. So you told us Philippines a long time was not a stable state with a weak government, and now it changed under President Aquino. But I think his time will, as president, will end in 1 or 2 years. So what will be the next? Is there strong people like him to follow him, or is there a process of to make the state stronger, to make the institutions, the law system stronger? I think a state cannot depend on a president. A state must have strong institutions. So how is the development of institutions in the Philippines to make the state strong and to reliable and for investors? How is the development in this?
That's the most commonly asked question nowadays. Now, what about the post-Aquino scenario? No, or I guess now a luckier country. No, because when we got our acts right, starting 2010, the penetration of internet and mobile telephony within the country has made information access practically universal to our people. And one of the things that has happened outside of increased confidence is that people now are able to feel the benefits of better governance in their own lives. Whereas, and are able to compare with each other through social networks. And I think this will be the biggest factor in the next election, 2016, that they will demand more of the same. More, in fact, now, despite the improvements that President Aquino has brought to the country, the people are demanding more. When they see something wrong, they bring it out in the internet. No? In the 90s, we had a short period also of something similar during the Ramos years. But that was pre-internet. No? Well, not pre-internet, but pre-universal access through mobile telephony. And I think some of the changes that we're seeing around the world, or we've seen, is because of this. The changes in the Middle East, we never thought that some regimes would end, but they're gone. No? Changes going on right now. So I think that would be the most important factor. Institution building obviously is very important. A government is not one person. No, and one of the things that President Aquino is institutionalizing is a performance measurement system. When you don't measure something, then you don't get things done, or you don't get it to move a certain direction. So we start with a budget. Each department that requests for a budget make a performance commitment. And then it is now translated to each of the members of that department. And then we're trying to slowly introduce incentive compensation. No? It's the alignment of our goals, the way we measure, the way we reward, and hopefully ultimately the way we hire and train people so that we can build the right culture. We're also trying to enshrine into laws some of the changes that we're putting forward. So I believe that in 2016, whoever is elected will have no choice but to continue along this path. No? right now, no, with AMLA, the anti-money laundering, and it's hard to hide money. No, you can still do so, but not as freely as during the time of the Marcoses, probably. No, so and therefore a lot of these leaders, no, realize all these constraints, no, that they're really there to try and make a difference. Some of them may have had a past that's questionable, but I believe the people, whoever is elected, will hold them to it. There was a case in just the turn of late 90s, early 2000s, where we had a president who was short-lived because people did not like what he was doing. And that was, again, even before what we have right now. That was just the start of the universal access to telephones. No, so I think we're lucky it's happening at the right time, and hopefully the momentum will carry us forward.
So, gentlemen over there.
Yes, Stanley White from Reuters. In your opening remarks, you talked about some of the fiscal constraints that the government has faced. And it's my understanding that there are some bills in Congress that would are proposing to do things like cut some types of taxes, like income taxes, I believe, or corporate taxes, and also perhaps make bonuses exempt from tax. And I just wondered if you think that this runs counter to the need for fiscal discipline, or if you think that these types of measures are a good idea. If you could share your thoughts, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, the interesting thing about the Philippines is that when you look at our tax rates compared to our neighbors in ASEAN, we probably have among the highest tax rates. No? And yet, when you look at our tax efficiency, tax collection efficiency in relation to our GDP, we probably have among the lowest. No? And therefore, I believe that the challenge is a combination of having the right tax structure, but at the same time empowering the government to be able to improve its efficiency to collect. No? I'll give you a sector that notoriously underpays in the Philippines up to now, no? Which is a challenge for us. Professional, self-employed Filipinos, doctors, engineers, accountants, lawyers, artists. I mean, these are people who are princes of society. We believe that there are about 1.5 million, at least, of them, 1.8 million of them, who should be paying income taxes. Based on our records, approximately only about 1/4, 400,000. Paid taxes in 2012 or 13, no? And then the average pay that they paid is only about 30,000 pesos per annum, which is as low as what a minimum wage earner's income tax is. And that's why we only collect 12 billion in taxes from this sector, or about 8% of our total income tax collections. My own estimate is this, that if the 1.5 million paid, and if they only paid 200,000 pesos, which is nothing, no, Hermes bag can cost more than 200,000 pesos. That's 300 billion pesos, from 12 to 300 billion pesos. And that just shows you that that is still one of the challenges that we're facing, and that's why we're filing cases against them. We're trying to increase the perception of risk so that on their own they will increase their compliance. We've seen an improvement, but we haven't reached a tipping point. No? So these proposals in Congress really was to address the overburdened sector, which is the salaried workers, because they bear over 90% of the brunt in terms of income taxes. No? And although finance ministers do not like tax rate cuts, no, obviously we are working closely with Congress to come up with a more holistic solution. No? We're open to reducing rates, some of the rates, increasing some, so that there's more comparability, for example, between products of banks and insurance entities, but at the same time improving the ability of the agencies that collect. No? We still have bank secrecy law. We're one of the few countries with bank secrecy law. So the Internal Revenue Service cannot access bank records under certain only under exceptional situations can they do so. No, that is if they remove that, we're open to even a lower rate, because that means it improves our ability to collect on those who are evading. If, for example, we have a more universal tax ID system where everyone's required to have a tax number, that also improves our ability. So, in the short answer to your question is this: that yes, there are proposals. Our counter is that we don't really mind fine-tuning it, because there is a need to fine-tune it, but we need to do it on a holistic basis so that we can have more competitive rates, but at the same time improve our collection percentage.
Sounds convincing. Doesn't make a finance minister popular to bring people to pay taxes, but
I don't have to be elected.
So, any more questions from the floor? Okay, let me continue. The growth in Philippines, as far as I know, is mostly driven by consumption. You said 120 million people. It's a young society, so there is a demand for consumption. Some other Asian countries are a bit scared and complaining that the possible monetary tightening in the United States might have effects on growth rates in Southeast Asian countries. How far do you expect the Philippines might be affected by that, or are you in a virtuous cycle that is nearly independent from things like that?
I don't think there's any country that's immune from the vagaries of global finance, especially with the policies of the largest countries of the world. Having said that, we are in a situation where we're less vulnerable than countries that are more externally dependent, such as those that are dependent on exports. No? The primary drivers of Philippine growth has been consumption, as stated, but driven by remittances from overseas Philippine workers. We have close to, depending on who you talk to, 8 to 10 million Filipinos, including over 300,000 here in Japan. No? And they remit over $23 billion a year to the country. But more than that, we've developed IT BPO sector that now employs over 1 million workers. And by 2016, we'll bring in over $25 billion and employ 1.3 million Filipinos. Increasingly, tourism is becoming a major factor. So, because of the strength of these sectors plus our own export sector, we are a structural current account surplus country. So, even with the reversal of QE by the US, we still have access to funding because of that situation. We also have the fiscal space that can now then increase investments in infrastructure. Because what we've been trying to do is not reduce in absolute amounts consumption, but improve the balance. We've improved it slightly. Public investment has increased since President Aquino took over. But what we'd like to do is come up with a 50-50 balance of consumption, investment, and capital formation on the other side. We will continue to open up various parts of the economy so that and reform them so that they continue to become more competitive in the global market. No? Our agriculture is perennially challenged, so we need to open it up. We need to invest in technology, invest in agriculture infrastructure so that we can increase the productivity, and then we don't have to protect, for example, the rice or the sugar and other farmers. No, but obviously this is a highly political area, just like in Japan, no, because we are a rice consuming country.
I didn't say this before. This question session is open for not working press people as well. So if this part of the room has some questions, feel free to ask and to raise your hands. You just mentioned the 300,000 Philippine working in Japan. Once you met government officials, did you talk about this? Because Japan is a country that needs foreigners to come in a way, especially for nursing, for construction industries. You already have a shortage of labor in this country, but it's difficult to get, let's say, the conditions for staying here for longer. I know from the immigration office, I always meet the Philippine people with 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. So did you have talks about to make this situation easier for them and to open the Japanese market for workforce from countries like Philippines?
Before answering that directly, I think we must all realize that economies are about people, no? And the younger the people, the more voracious the appetite to consume. No? The younger people will have aspirational needs, no? Cars, travel, restaurants, houses. No? They have the future in front of them, whereas the older people tend to just coast along. No? And therefore, as drivers of economic growth, it's been proven that younger people produce higher economic growth than older people. So from that standpoint alone, no, I think countries that have a higher average age should average down. How do you average down? You produce more people or bring in more people. The U.S. has done that. They've benefited from migration from the South and other countries, including the Philippines. No? And it's a win-win thing if done properly. Our economic partnership agreement with Japan covers not just trade, but also the movement of people. On the trade part, we've progressed. On the movement of people, we haven't progressed as much. No? And this is an area that we're working closely with the Japanese government. It need not be one way. No? In fact, we'd love to have Japanese people in the Philippines, especially the retirees. No? The active retirees can retire in the Philippines and they'll have fun. No? They can dance, they can play golf, they can scuba dive, they can have an active lifestyle. No? On the other hand, the older ones here who need care can benefit from the Philippines because we're one of the major suppliers of healthcare workers in the world. We're a major supplier of shipping, crewing in the world. No? So I think if we look at it from the benefit, no, it makes sense for the two of us. No? But obviously, there must be certain processes and rules. No? Language is one. No? Obviously, if one wants to work in Japan, they have to learn the Japanese language. And the Japanese government has a program helping us improve the language skills of our people. They have to learn the system. No? So I think it's a process, and hopefully it will end up with a more win-win situation where there's more Japanese coming to the Philippines and more Filipinos going to Japan.
So I'm always looking for the raised arms, but can't see one, so it's a discussion.
There, Reuters.
Gentleman again.
I think.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. It's basically about what we were talking about, the foreign workers. And it's a similar question, but I just want to approach it from a different angle. And I wonder if actually you find that the Japanese government is not cooperative or dragging its feet on bringing in more foreigners. The reason why I ask is because I know that given Japan's demographic problems, oftentimes Japanese politicians in public will say, oh yes, well, it might be an idea to have, more foreign workers or something we should consider, but that in private they actually are very reluctant to have foreign workers come in. And they set up types of roadblocks or obstacles to make it very difficult for foreigners to come in. One example that comes to mind would be trying to get people from Indonesia into the healthcare sector to do things like take care of the elderly here in Japan, where basically what you had an agreement between the two governments that would allow people to come in, but the process for doing so, language proficiency in Japanese, all these other complicated tests, to get certification to do these jobs actually made it so difficult that a lot of young Indonesians just simply gave up and went back to Indonesia. And I really wonder, when you do meet with the Japanese government, do you really get a sense that they really, want to throw the doors further open and have more people from places like the Philippines or Indonesia come in, or do you actually find that there's actually a lot of resistance?
Well, more than ever, I think the current Japanese government has been aware of this challenge. In fact, this is part of one of the arrows that they're working on to make sure that the Japanese economy improves its performance. And in our various meetings with the Japanese government, they've agreed that there is a lot of room for improvement in terms of the ability of foreign workers to actually work in Japan. So I think there's recognition of this, and I think the requirements on language is but natural. It's hard to work in an area where you cannot speak the language, and that's why we have sought assistance in improving our ability to teach our those Filipinos who want to come here with the Japanese language. However, it's not the strategy of the Philippine government to send our people out. No? In fact, we look at our overseas workers as our asset, no? Not just for the remittances, but you have a large size population of the Philippines that are skilled, that have a global outlook, that work well with other nationalities, and this has resulted in the Philippines gaining advantage in many areas. No? In the business process outsourcing area, a lot of them, the workers, have actually been brought back to the Philippines to start operations of companies in the Philippines. In the hospitality industry, in hotels around the world, you have Filipinos. They've come back actually now as tourism started to gain traction in the country to man newly opened hotels in the Philippines. Why have the Philippines done well in shipbuilding? Because of overseas Philippine workers. We don't have a steel industry. No, our power cost is still higher. No, but we have a deep pool of welding expertise. And in shipbuilding, welding is very important. No? So this pool of 8 to 10 million Filipinos now is one of our major assets. And as we continue to increase business activity in the country, we're able to attract more of them. And there would be less need to actually, for people to go into other markets.
So the gentleman in the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Kiho. I'm working in bank, Japanese bank. I'm businessman. So my question is rather specific. I've been working with your country for a long time, and especially for the middle-sized Japanese company. And historically speaking, there are not so many car parts company in Philippines. The problem is car manufacturing industry in your country. But however, as you know, the past several years, Japanese big car company announced new plan to make a factory. And obviously, in order to further develop car industry in your country, the key is obviously how to increase car sales domestically. Right now, this year probably it will reach 300,000 something. But in comparison with other ASEAN countries such as Thailand, Indonesia, still your market has a huge potentiality to expand. What's the key for the?
Well, as I pointed out, it's finally growing rapidly. It is growing over 30% so far this year. And the key is the increasing disposable income of people, the confidence that they have in the country, the lower interest costs they have to pay, and the longer terms that are available to them. No? In fact, a big challenge now is to build more roads because the traffic is being exacerbated by the increasing car sales. No? Based on studies, when we hit per capita of 6,000, just like what was seen in China, the consumption will even go steeper. The increases will be even steeper. And given the size of the Philippines, no, our total potential is bigger than that of Thailand. And that's why we've been talking to several Japanese companies, car companies, about using the Philippines as a manufacturing hub, initially for consumption of within the Philippines, but ultimately for ASEAN and hopefully global hub. We are about to finalize our car automotive industry roadmap, and a key component of this would be to address the cost disadvantage at the start because of the absence of the cluster. And hopefully, once we bridge that, then the industry would once and for all be able to establish in the Philippines. A good guide would be how since the past 4 years, we've seen the increase of motorcycle sales. It's increased several times over the past 4 years. And as people's income increase, they graduate from motorcycle sales to car sales, no? And so on and so forth. So.
Siegfried.
So you told us about the migrants walking all over the world. In Germany, I'm from Germany, and in Frankfurt, where I lived, there are a lot of Philippine people living there. And in my neighborhood, there was a kind of a remittance office for Philippine people sending money back to the Philippines. So how important is this money coming from the migrants from foreign countries, Arab countries, and Germany, and money going back to the Philippines? How important is this for the Philippine economy? And do you have any numbers? How many numbers about the money coming back every year?
Yeah. Right now, it is an important component of the whole Philippine economic story, but becoming less crucial because of the growth of other industries. The total remittances last year was about $23 billion, and it has proven its resiliency because it continues to grow. We expect it to grow this year at about 5 to 6%. That growth has been quite constant. Many years ago, we were purely dependent on this, but now not anymore. Because as I mentioned, our BPO industry by 2016 will probably be as big as the remittances. No? And then our tourism target of 10 million tourists by 2016 should also be a substantial leg. So the three of them will form three strong legs. And then we're working on the mining industry. As you know, we're quite mineralized, no? Except that we're changing the rules so that one, it's more responsible to the environment, and two, there's better sharing between the mining company and the communities that host it and the government. So if we're able to solve that and restart mining, then mining can be the fourth strong leg of that. That's why our reserves are at historic highs. In fact, if you look at our total reserves as opposed to our foreign currency debt, we're actually a net creditor country, the Philippines now. And we're a structural current account surplus country. That's why we're affected by the policy moves of the U.S. Fed, but not as much as others that are more dependent on exports, such as some of our neighbors.
So time is over. If there is any last question, yeah, Fujita-san.
My name is Fujita, and I'm at the Kokumin Shimbun, Japanese media. I think regarding language education, Japanese people need more English training to communicate with the rest of the world. And of course, going to America or Europe would be good, but also Philippines can be a very close place where English language is spoken in the country. Do you have any plans or ideas that to provide language education, English language education, for example, to Japanese people?
Well, this is not something driven by the government, but the private sector actually has taken this into their own hands. We have Philippine-based language instructors teaching Japanese, English over the internet. And there are many of them that does this. In fact, I know of one where first you pre-qualify as an instructor, they rate you. Then based on your rate, they determine how much you can be charged. And then they match you with a student over the internet. We've also seen some Japanese come to the Philippines to learn English. In fact, some come to the Philippines to learn how to play golf, at the same time learn English. So, given our location, we're more of although we have a wet and dry season, we're more of a 12-month destination because we don't have our winters. So that's why it can work both ways. And as our English teachers teach Japanese English, then hopefully they learn in Japanese in the process as well. We've seen Japanese companies put up design centers in the Philippines also. So companies that put up industrial plants around the world, they use Filipino engineers to make the basic design under their supervision. And again, that's been a win-win situation.
So now we heard many good reasons why to go to Philippines and to spend some time there. So think about it. As time is over now, thank you very much, Mr. Purisima, for finding time and answering all the questions. And we have the good old tradition to have a 1-year honorary membership in the Foreign Correspondents Club. I don't know how often you come to Japan. Maybe you have a private holiday or others. You are always welcome to join us at the bar and continue the talk about the Philippine success story. And yeah, thank you very much.
Does it come with a ticket to from the Philippines to Japan?
I will negotiate this at the next board meeting. If yes, I tell you.
Yeah. Thank you. I also have a gift. You can't ride this to the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
But if you go to the Philippines, one of the more common sights in the country is this jeepney. Very colorful. It's an inefficient form of transportation, but it's very popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I hope that you can put this somewhere here as an evidence that you have friends in the Philippines and that you should visit.
Thank you very much. And if I apply the flight ticket, you apply the gasoline.
Yes, that's a good switch.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.